Hey folks, it's Ray, DCRainmaker.com here, and today I've got the cheapest smart trainer on the market, a full review of it. This unit comes in at 249 euros or $349, depending on where you are elsewhere in the world. It's various prices, and it's not actually new. This trainer's been around for years, and for whatever reason, it's never really got great recognition, which is strange because it's actually a pretty solid trainer for the money. There is no smart trainer that I'm aware of, at least not any name brand or even off-brand, that can do full control resistance of incline, of erg mode, all the things that a $1,000 kicker or anything else can do in a €250 to $350 package. Now, as with anything that's cheaper, there are some trade-offs, and I'm going to get into all those trade-offs in just a second. But first, we're going to start with some of the baseline specs here. To begin with, the most obvious thing is that it's a wheel-on trainer. That means you're going to go ahead and take your entire bike, stick it on here without taking your wheel off. When you take your wheel off, that's called the direct drive trainer. This is a wheel-on trainer, meaning you put your wheel on this roller down here, and then you'll press that button up like that, and it locks it in place. The next thing is that a power cord is required. It comes with one, no problem at all. But you do have to have power somewhere nearby. And I say nearby because this power cord is really short for trainers. I'm guessing it's roughly a meter, so 3 feet or so. Most of them now are between 6 feet and 9 feet or 2 to 3 meters. But no big deal. You can sort that out yourself with an extension cord. Like all trainers on the market today, it is dual ANT Plus and Bluetooth Smart. Even has a little logo right there. And what's cool here is this one actually does all the specs as it should. So it does Bluetooth Smart FTMS. That's the control for trainers, the trainer control standard there. It does ANT Plus FEC. That's the exact same thing for ANT Plus. It also broadcasts your power and speed and cadence on those respective profiles for both ANT Plus and Bluetooth Smart. Next, we'll hit the kind of the core specs. These are the things that really differentiate these sort of trainers to a $1,000 trainer. Number one is the flywheel. This right here, it's 1.6 kilograms. The flywheel matters because the heavier a flywheel is, the more road feel realistic it'll feel because you got more inertia from this flywheel spinning right there. So 1.6 kilos is pretty small, and that's, again, one of the big differentiators between something like this and something that may have a 10 or 15 or beyond flywheel or simulated flywheel weight there. The next bit is the accuracy. Now this is rated at plus or minus 5%, which is pretty much the outside edge of smart trainers. That means that if you're at 200 watts, this could be at 210 watts. So basically 5 watts for every 100 watts of wattage. We'll get to accuracy later on though in the video. Okay, and a quick note, if you are finding this video useful, go ahead and mark that like button in the corner right there. It really helps out this video and the channel quite a bit. Then there is the maximum resistance that it can provide. This is 800 watts. My general guidance on maximum resistance is that unless you know the resistance you can put out, it probably won't matter to you. If you're new to cycling, you're probably not gonna have a problem with 800 watts. Then there's a last spec, which is the simulated grade. And that is how much this thing can simulate if you're going and pretending you're on a mountain climb like Alpe d'Huez or whatever the case may be. And this is 6% simulated grade. A number of trainers out there can go ahead and simulate in the 10 to 16%, with some of the higher end models up to 25%. However, don't overthink this yet. And the reason is that if you're going to use Zwift, for example, they half the grade automatically. So when you load up Zwift and you use the defaults there, it'll go ahead and it'll set your trainer grade to 50% of whatever you're simulating. So that means if you're going up a 12% incline, which would hurt a lot in real life, in Zwift, it's only simulated at 6%. Which is the same 6% here. So I wouldn't overthink that a ton unless you're someone that really likes to simulate outdoor climbs and just want to climb all day long. Then in that case, this probably isn't the trainer for you. But if you're like, yeah, I like to some climbs here and there, but I just don't want to sit on a climb for an hour straight, then keep on listening. Okay, with those basics out of the way, let me kind of talk through how you get it all set up. First, you're going to take it out of the box. The box is actually pretty small for a smart trainer box, which is kind of nice. It comes already folded up. All you need to do is go ahead and take this resistance unit and install it on it with just simply 2 bolts. It takes you like 3 minutes to do. It's very, very quick and easy. And there's actually 2 settings depending on what kind of wheel size you have. So just do a quick glance at your wheel size before you install it. Next, what you're going to do is you go ahead and take this lever here and ensure that it's up. That'll make it easier to get your wheel in. You're going to open up this lever right here and you're going to slide your bike into it. Now, when you do that, you're going to go ahead and probably fidget a little bit with these levers up there to go ahead and tighten things the right way. You'll close it back up and then you're good to go. However, you still need to go ahead and press down this lever here, which takes the resistance unit and pushes it up against your wheel, and that creates sort of that lock there. Now below it is this knob. This knob sucks. Like, out of all of this entire trainer, this is the one piece here that if I could take maybe that hammer, the big one, not the little one, the big one, I would smash the crap out of that knob. It's the most miserable thing that Tacx has ever created, and I've tried every Tacx product. Still, the good news, you only have to deal with it once. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to turn this knob one way or the other to get it into the right resistance range. And you're going to do that using the calibration portion of the Tacx utility app. And what you're going to try to do is to get the little line in the middle of this gradient here. The challenge with that is that when you do it wrong badly enough, it won't tell you which direction you got to go. So you got to futz with this a bunch of times. I'm going to go with about 10 times until you get it in the range. Now, before you did all that, what you should probably do is pump up your tire. Oh, I just lost a light bulb. Now, before you do that, what you should probably do is pump up your tire to a set PSI that you can remember in your head, because that'll make your life a whole heck of a lot easier later on. In my case, I went with 100 PSI just because that's a simple number that I can remember all the time. And if you do that and you put it 100 PSI every single time, you do not have to do calibration every single time because everything stays as a constant. Your wheel pressure, tire pressure stays as a constant. Now, at this point, we're ready to go ahead and get this thing paired up to an app. Now, there are lots of smart trainer apps out there. Zwift and TrainreRoad and Sufferfest are some of the most popular ones. I've got an entire guide, a written guide. It's like 12,000 words long with over a dozen apps down in the description there if you want to read on the apps. But I'm just going to assume you're probably using TrainreRoad or Zwift. So starting off with Zwift, you're going to go ahead into the pairing menu, and this will be seen as a broadcastable, smart, controllable trainer, which means you'll see it there. You're going to pair it up first as a power meter, second as a controllable trainer, and third as a cadence sensor, because it does actually provide cadence. Again, we'll talk about accuracy later on, but it does provide cadence. Once you got that all done, you can go ahead and just start using Zwift like normal. That means that as you pedal, it'll go ahead and it'll change the resistance on the unit here so that you feel the same thing that you're seeing in the game. So as you go up inclines, you're going to feel the inclines up to 6%. But again, remember Zwift is halved at 50% trainer difficulty. You can change that setting in the settings, by the way, if you want to. So then you may be asking yourself, what happens if I go up a 15% grade hill? What does this actually do? Well, in short, it'll provide resistance up to the capabilities of this. At that point, it feels like you just sort of run out of resistance. It's almost like running out of gears. You basically don't get any more resistance. The hill simply feels too easy to you. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to go up faster on that hill in Zwift because it's all about your power output. So the point there being, don't fear that the thing's going to like catch on fire or anything weird like that. It just simply can't output what you're asking it to, and it's just going to kind of sort of flatline there. And the same is true as well of that 800 wattage maximum there. Now, keep in mind, that's 800 watts at 40 kilometers an hour. So what happens if you go beyond that is you're going to feel like you can't get any more resistance from the unit itself. So it's very similar to being out on the road if you were pedaling in the wrong gear and you're just kind of like mashing through it and you're not really getting the pull or the resistance that you want. Same sort of feeling above the 800 watts. Again, probably not an issue for most people though. Now, next is TrainreRoad. And this is where I saw some of the biggest disadvantages of this particular trainer compared to Zwift, which has nothing to do with TrainreRoad, but different modes. In Zwift, primarily, unless you're in workout mode, you're using something called sim mode or simulation mode, where it's simulating the grades of the hills. Versus TrainreRoad is using something called erg mode for ergometer, meaning it's setting a set wattage, like 200 watts or 300 watts, and you're routing to that wattage no matter what gearing you're in. But the no matter what gearing part isn't necessarily true on this trainer. On a high-end trainer like a Kicker or something like that for $1,000 or $1,200, it doesn't generally matter too much what gearing you're in because the trainer is powerful enough to deal with it all. On this trainer, that's not the case. If you look at this TrainreRoad workout I did right here, you see I got into the first interval, and that should have been set at 420 something watts or so, I think. And you can see that I was way undercut on that. And that surprised me because normally speaking, I've never had that issue in trainer tests. And typically speaking, for almost every trainer out there, the recommendation for better erg mode responsiveness is to be in the small ring in the front so that you get a lower speed. By lower speed, it can control the trainer better, and you go ahead and get a better experience. But what I found out with the lower speed, they simply couldn't put out the wattage. So then I fiddled over the next couple of intervals until I finally found a situation that allowed me to get the full 400 and something watts out of this trainer itself. Now, again, it's not ideal, but it's also not the end of the world. You're only paying, $300-ish or euros, whatever you want to call it, and you're getting the same workout experience. You just have to figure out that a little bit more by yourself. Now, by the time I got to the end of that set of 8 different intervals, I had figured out this trainer and figured out what it would take for me to be able to hit those intervals. And you'd be able to figure it out yourself as well, as long as you're armed with the knowledge that you may have to adjust your gears a little bit to go ahead and be able to hit the highs and lows. As you can see in that chart there, in some cases, when I hit the highs with that gearing, I couldn't actually get down to the floor and hit the lower recovery intervals without changing gears. Not a big deal in most cases. 30x30s are the hardest, most demanding things I typically test trainers with because they're just fast responsiveness, up and down, huge differences in wattage. For most workouts that are having more longer sustained periods, it's not too big of a deal. The next thing is noise. How loud is this thing? And it's not quiet. I'll just simply say that up front. But it's all about your speed. Noise on smart trainers has nothing to do with wattage. Period. End of statement. It's all about wheel speed. So you can adjust gearing to kind of play with that a little bit in some cases to reduce the audible volume of this trainer. Okay, so here we go. This is what it sounds like in the studio when I'm not using a lav mic. Makes it a little more fair to listen to the audio sound in just a second. So I've got forward chainring in the front, middle of the pod roughly in the back there, and just cruising along here, 20 miles an hour, 30 kilometers an hour in Zwift, at 215 watts. With this sort of trainer though, it's about the speed and my gearing that makes the difference in sound. So if I go ahead and go to the small ring here, they put it significantly quieter there, even though my wattage stays about the same. So get back in the big ring here. There we go, get back to where we were. And now I'll go ahead and turn down to a sprint. I'm going to go down a little bit in gearing, so I get the resistance I want. And here we go. So my actual wattage on my power meter here, about 800 watts for that. That's 600 watts on screen. You can hear what that sounds like there. And then back to kind of steady state now. That dives into road feel. Just very briefly on this, it's not a $1,000 trainer, but it's not bad. Like I expected from this that it would be like, oof, that's not good road feel. And again, road feel is all about inertia. The bigger this flywheel is, the more inertia, the more realistic it feels. That means that the key kind of scenarios you look at for road feel is accelerations and decelerations. When you accelerate on a high-end smart trainer, you feel that sort of rush behind you. Versus this, when you accelerate, it's just like, and it's not the end of the world. You'd probably never know it if you've never been on a higher-end smart trainer before. So overall, I'd say this isn't bad. Like I've done a number of workouts on it now, and I didn't sit there and going, this was like pedaling through mush. So I wouldn't say that's a problem on this trainer. I'd find this is totally acceptable for this price point. And finally, what about accuracy? So for that, we're going to need to jump over the computer. Okay, so the first thing to keep in mind when looking at these charts is that the stated accuracy of the Tacx Flow Smart is plus or minus 5%. And earlier on in this set here on TrainreRoad, it's pretty darn close. It's within like 10 or so watts, which is within spec for the most part. Up here though, as I get a little bit higher up and faster wheel speeds and higher wattages, the difference there you see with the blue line to the rest of them does expand a bit, though it's actually still just barely within spec here for what it's supposed to be. Next, if we shift over to Zwift here, you'll see that earlier on, it struggles a little bit right here in this section. And the reason for that is the high wheel speed. So earlier on in the ride, I was going much faster from a wheel speed standpoint. You can see that if we scroll on down here to speed, and right there the wheel speed is really high on this, and so it struggles there. But once I get that under control, once I got beyond the first 10 minutes or so, it seems to lock in just fine. In fact, even though I changed my wheel speed numerous times throughout this, no issues there at all. It was within spec easily for most of this ride. The one exception to that was these 3 sprints right here. These sprints there, I went above 800 watts, almost 900 watts, and on all of those, it was significantly lower on the Tacx Flow, so down to 650 watts or 700 watts over here. So if you're looking for a trainer that you can sprint to the finish on, I wouldn't choose this to try to win that Zwift race. It's just not going to work that well. Okay, so there you go, a complete look at the Tacx Flow Smart. Hopefully I didn't call it Flux too many times here. And overall, I'm impressed for the money. Again, you've got to balance the budget and pricing of this trainer with the high-end trainer. But for this money, there is nothing in this ballpark that even comes close to having full resistance controllable, not just something that broadcasts your power and speed, but fully resistance controllable at this price point. And so for that, this is definitely a solid buy. I do wish Tacx did a better job of making this more available in more places. For whatever reason, this trainer's again been around for years. Almost nobody talks about it, or nobody even knows it, or you don't even carries it. It's very hard to find in many places, especially even now. But if you can find one and you're just kind of unsure whether or not smart trainers are your thing, then go ahead and pick this up, give it a whirl. And if you do like that, then you can consider a stepping stone to something more expensive later on down the road. Anyways, if you found this video interesting, go ahead and hit that like button at the bottom there, or hit the subscribe button for plenty more sports technology goodness on the way. With that, have a good one.